perfectly fine with like helping them out and knowing that like those are the risks. And I talked about the stakes being higher here. Like those are the risks that are just associated with it. And like you just have to like go into it thinking that hopefully there's a way that we can rewrite some of these things that pop up so that we can turn something that maybe was a negative into a positive.
I mean, I like people. I like people. I'm a people person. And I know like that could be held against me as like, you're good enough, you're strong enough. But I'm telling you, there's very few times where you go out and like you're at a table and you know some people, you don't know other people, and you just kind of, bam, hit it off. And Bjorn Trowery, who was my guest today, was one of those dudes. I mean, Bjorn, in real life, how many hours have you and I spent together?
IRL. I mean, that was a long night, but not that many. Actually, yeah. Now that I think about it, which like it blows me away because I feel like we've had I feel like this has been like an ongoing thing. Like I would consider you like a legitimate, like true friend.
But you're my boy. It's easy. Yeah. It's just easy, Yeah. And so it's been cool that when we met, you were running point for Heineken, right? And I don't know if what was the official title, if it was internal comms.
I was a director of external communications.
Okay. And I want to talk about what that's like, because that must have been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
And then you had this whole New York City life, and you kind of packed up the bag and you said, you know what? We're going west. And so now you're on the communications and brand PR team for Meta, formerly known as Facebook. It sounds very Prince to me.
So we're just going to become a symbol. Who knows? Yeah, a couple of years from now, we're just going to shift into that.
I can't be the first one who made that joke, right?
I mean, you could claim it. Yeah, it's you, man. That's a great joke.
I'm taking it. I'm taking the symbol. So, by the way, how are you liking the West Coast?
Yeah, man, it's good. It's definitely a little bit different in terms of just like the pace of New York. I think that luckily San Francisco and the Bay Area, just in general, there's some East Coast like tendencies to it. But there's an entire world of like just being outside that I have not been used to over the past, like 12 years of living in New York, and being out here. Like the outdoors is like a real thing. Like the outdoors like truly are calling, and they're incredible. So it's been fun to enjoy those and like enjoy nature. There's no way that like New York Bjorn would like take myself seriously if he heard me like present day, like talking about it. But it's great, man.
I mean, okay, let's have a quick chat with New York Bjorn.
Yeah.
Like, hey, New York Bjorn. How is that pandemic in a little 600 square foot box? I mean, like, how would you have done would you have just figured it out? Because that's just what New Yorkers do. You figure it out. Like, would you have just figured it out?
Yeah, I mean, and there's so much that's like happened to over the past like few years, like my like family stuff, my mom passing away, like there are like so many things that just like completely just help you like take inventory on like the things that matter and like the things that are really important. So there is like that tenacity and that resilience that like I fully like appreciate, like New York kind of building like and kind of like adding to kind of the person that I was raised to be and kind of like grew into. But at some point, I think everybody kind of says uncle. And for me, like that's what the pandemic was for me. Like the pandemic like helped me, I think, just be a lot more just like considerate and just like measured. And the West Coast in particular, like it will do that to you. Like the West Coast will like inevitably like beat the New York out of me. And in a way, I think that's like a good thing. I think that's a very, very good thing.
I can't help but like reflect on my own shit, right? So like in 2004, I moved out here, and I mean, even still to this day, my identity, I don't like when you picture San Diego, yeah. I'm not exactly what you would think, right? Like,
no,
I'm not. I have too much body fat. I've got no blonde hair. I don't surf. All of my stuff is wrapped up as an East Coaster.
Yeah.
Like now, you've been out here for a few years. What is it? 2 years? 3 years?
Yeah, a little over 2 years.
Like what is your identity? Like, are you East Coaster? Are you West Coaster? Are you a Mosaic?
Yeah, I think that and again, these are the things that like the pandemic like helped to help me to just consider and like think through a little more of like beyond like what my identity is. Like I definitely would not, and I'm definitely not the type of person where like my job is like my end all be all. So like I'm thankful that like I don't necessarily think of like myself and my identity in terms of like what I'm doing for a living or like like how I'm paying the bills. But I think for me, I think that the big thing about the past like few years and even beyond the pandemic has just been like what do I what do I want to like be known for, and like how like from a family standpoint do I want to like what legacy is there, and like what what do I want to leave with the people that like I care about the most. And that's like, so that's helped me like consider everything from like repairing relationships and trying really, really hard to connect with folks that, that I've been distant with, being really connected and like, I think really super intentional with the people that have like been with me and like have like stuck with me and have been like really, really good friends with me. For all the different years and everything else. So for me, like the identity kind of transcends, and it's super easy to just be like, yeah, I'm a New Yorker. Like I lived there for so long. And to be honest, like I grew up in Pittsburgh. So like, I'm more like, Pittsburghers don't necessarily like to hear this, but I'm more like Midwest, like Pittsburgh kind of like, parochial like sensibilities than even the New York thing. But, I don't know. And then you add in a little bit of the West Coast, and I think that maybe it's a good mix of everything.
Did you know when you were back in Pittsburgh that there was just something tugging at you to go to New York?
100%. Yeah. So I was one of those dorks that I think by the time high school came around, like 1000% knew like what I wanted to do, like in college. Like I never wavered in terms of the major that I picked, any of like the classes that I took. Like it's just whether it's the job or whether it's kind of like that energy that New York kind of generates and kind of pulls out of people and adds to people. I think it was always there. But for me, like I think I'm really thankful though that I had the background that I did in Pennsylvania, because it gave me like a good like context for like just the like full like spectrum of like people from like an ethnic standpoint, a nationality standpoint, like a diversity of thought and like the way that people think about things. Like if you want to talk and like really get into it, but like I grew up in Allegheny County, which is like one of the most fought after, diverse, like pretty much like 50-50, like geopolitical or political socio-political battlegrounds in the country. Like every 4 years, even during the midterms, like it is just, the space that a lot of folks fight over, because it swings both ways. Like it is like fully like if Pennsylvania is a swing state, like that is like the pendulum, and like that is where kind of the center of it resides. So you learn to be a lot more balanced and like be like really, really strong in your in the way that you think about things, because you know both sides. You're presented with both sides all the time. And I think it helps you just like be more assured in who you are and what you want. So that carried completely over is like the perfect on-ramp to going into New York, where like you have to have that. Like if you're someone that's kind of like wishy-washy or like not necessarily like sure of like what you want, it's not going to go well. And I definitely come from the camp of like New York is not for everybody, like they're especially like being there for a long time. Maybe it's fun to go and do your thing for a few years and then bounce out. But if you're going to be there for a while, it's an acquired taste.
I also think there's a curmudgeon line. Like you got to be careful. There's a curmudgeon line. If you stay too long, you're like, you can tiptoe into a space you don't want to be. But
that's so true.
97% of the time New York City is like a special place, and you just can't beat it. Like it's funny. I took my wife to see Rent. She'd never seen Rent before.
Oh, nice.
25th year anniversary. This was like the last stop on the tour.
Yeah.
Like, how have you not gone? And I remember just telling him, like, you don't understand. Like, we would just be like, let's just go up and try to get lottery tickets to Rent.
Yeah.
And 2 nights in a row, we ended up winning.
Oh my
Like,
gosh.
it's like $20 a pop. And that's New York. It's like,
Yeah.
if you want culture, come and get it,
Yeah.
and it's in all directions. But I love how you said it. It's almost funny. Like, did your job pick you, or did you pick your job as someone that had to like sort of step outside of yourself in a city and understand to see both sides? And here you are now in a position where, what's the story? Like, let's take a step back and look at what the story is. You did corporate comm at Toys R Us, so there's a lot of questions I got about that. And then you had Heineken, and now you're at Meta. What a time to be there, by the way. Like, not just because of the pandemic, but just the mass change and overhaul, rebrand. I don't know what you're allowed to share. I don't want to get you in trouble today, but like, what can you share about the process? How has it been?
Yeah, it's for me, and you kind of went down the line and like played the hits a little bit on my career, but I don't know what it is, but I think for me, it's been really interesting being at some of these bigger companies, just because you've got the scale, and then you've got the resources, and then you've got the just kind of public visibility and awareness, and like that kind of ubiquity that makes relevance like a thing that you truly can aspire for, and like can truly, even in certain cases, like affect or like be additive to. So, for Heineken, it's a great example. Like I loved how our entire team was so focused on being in positions where we could like drive culture and be partners with folks who are driving culture in a way that was like legit and like real. Like, a lot of brands like aspire for that and they want that, but not a lot of brands can actually be in that space. And it's not kind of seen as like bullshit or as like they're trying too hard. And I think the same thing with Meta, obviously too, like we're, our platforms and technologies are, I think we're over, half a billion, or over half of Earth. So we're like 3.5 billion people or a little more are using one platform or another. And I don't know, it's really cool to be able to be in a place where we're helping people like connect with people that they care about and connect with people that they love. And especially over the past few years, the importance of that and how difficult it's been for everybody. But being in a place where we're able to actually like be additive and help folks, when they probably need it most, has been really, really cool. But for me, especially on the day-to-day side, like being able to be part of some of these programs that are driving culture and like at the thick of it, and in a position where, we really can create change. That's awesome. Like, that's what you want, the stakes maybe are a little bit higher where I'm at now, especially at a place like Meta, maybe compared to, a Toys R Us or even like a Heineken. But that's not to say that those companies too didn't have, some serious stakes as well. But obviously I think the game is just like a little bit wider and a little bit different. But yeah, you love that challenge. Like I played sports growing up, and I'm like an athlete, like I'm super competitor. I run a lot now, but my main sport was volleyball. And for me, like so much of that is like, I don't know, like you want to be with the best of the best, like you want to beat the best, like you want to play with the best. Like it's nice to do, kind of the scrimmaging and stuff like that. But like at some point, like you want like the true like competition and what that feels like. And you yearn for that. So for me, like this is like, if you were going to do it anywhere, like it would be there.
Yeah, when I think of volleyball, the first thing I think of is Pittsburgh. I mean, it rolls right off the tongue together.
just like this beautiful beaches, and I don't know. Well, I went to Penn State, so Penn State is a legit like powerhouse program. But yeah, like we're not playing. I think of like Manhattan Beach and like Hawaii, not like the lake beds of or the river beds of the Monongahela.
You were destined for California, man. There's no doubt. But,
I was born there actually, so California has a gravitational pull. It just like pulls you back.
So, you start this new job at Meta. At this point, it's Facebook when you start. But, I mean, you basically pick up your shit and you move west in March of 20. And, like, the world shuts down. Like, did the world wait for you to show up? It's like, oh, Bjorn's here now. That's what it feels like, March 2020, right? So did you even get to go into the office? Did you get to meet anybody?
Yeah, my first, so my flight was, I think it was March like, I think it was that Friday the 13th was like the last like proper day not even just in New York, but everywhere. It was that Friday. And then my flight was on that Sunday. And I remember messaging our HR team, people team, like, and I was just straight up like, hey, like, is this like, what am I doing? Am I still getting on this plane? Like, what's up? Like, all my stuff's on like on like a big truck, like that, they have like movers and everything else. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, wow, like this is happening. And so my first day gets delayed about 2 weeks. But at that point, like I'm just setting context, like this is still like there's some measures that have been enacted. There's a lot of the restaurants are going like 25%, 50%, but like, masking wasn't even a thing at that point. And I think that everybody was just kind of in this space where, it was a little bit of wait and see, but it was a little bit of like, oh, this could be like a legitimate, shift in terms of like how we live life. So at that point, you're just rolling with the punches because, what's another, like huge, like unknown on top of like moving out West and starting a job, at this company. So for me, yeah, it was, I mean, look, at that point, like I feel like I can roll with the punches and I'm okay with a little unknown. But yeah, that was wild. So like, I mean, I didn't go into the office for, I think my first day in the office or even stepping foot into the office was when we had the relaunch and the rebrand. And that was in October of 2021. So I went a full year plus without like never being in an office. All these people talk about like all the, the perks at what the time at Facebook, with like the in office and, the food, everybody's like, talks about the food, like it's like a legend, like all these different things and, never experienced any of them. Not to say like, I'm not complaining about it, but like, there was just no, like, that's what it was for everybody. It's like, and then you go and you're like, not only, what did I not experience it? But my first day, it's like going from 0 to like 1,000. So
Hi, everybody. I'm Bjorn.
This is our new logo, like that, like it was, yeah. And, it was just nuts. It was absolutely nuts, but that was the same thing for everybody. So.
In the spirit of like, I always say, so what actually was your cushy title? Like, what is your title? Like, and I don't ask for like trying to acknowledge stature. I'm just,
yeah.
What's the title? What was you started with?
Yeah. So it was, when I started, it was consumer communications and brand PR. So now I'm part of the cross app team, but still focusing on that brand and marketing communication. So, our big, kind of visible marketing campaigns, some of the larger cultural tentpoles or cultural moments that we do. So whether that's leading our Super Bowl campaign, our Olympics campaigns, and all the different communications externally that kind of, pop through that. That's what I'm driving. So yeah, but obviously on the brand side, I work, and this was not, and I will not, even think about taking credit for obviously the brand relaunch, but obviously, that team being a massive part of, the shift, from us going from one brand, to more of kind of like a portfolio, like top down brand, with Meta, was incredible. It was like, for me, like a dream, like, and this is like, again, like the nerdy side of me coming through, but you want to work on something that, and I always, if I'm doing like a presentation or like speech or panel opportunity, I always say that like, it's something fun whenever, your mom like sees it and like sends you a text like, hey, I saw this thing. Like, is this like, were you doing this? Is like, were you guys the ones? And it's like, yeah. And like the rebrand was like one of those big moments where, like your mom's like group chain is like, sending texts and it's like, hey, like, was Bjorn like a part of that? I saw this thing on, Good Morning America or on Today's Show or whatever. And so, yeah, but that was, I don't even know where to start with that, but that was wild. Like, the first initial kind of, message, like, hey, we have this big thing coming up. And then it goes from, oh, it's a big thing to like, oh, this is like a real big thing. Like, this is like a, once in a career type thing to work on.
And when did obviously I'm sure they can't exactly let you know when you're in the hiring process, but then like you're like, this is happening, I'm moving. What I also wanted to like get to, I'd love to know when you learned of this and when, but also when, I mean, look, there's excitement anytime you start somewhere new. But then with the pandemic and, nobody, when does it go to, okay, now there's some anxiety. Like, you're taking away some of my superpowers here. Like, I can't be in a room and feel the energy of a room. I'm now a square box, like you're a square box. Like, did you have, so for starters, did you feel like anxious, or I guess, or you just sort of like, okay, everyone's dealing with this. It's not what I thought it would be. At least as an athlete, I can go outside and go running or biking and do whatever I need to do. But what superpower of yours do you feel like was taken away when you were trying to establish, hey, I'm cool, I'm good at what I do?
Yeah.
Right. And now you can't really see it the way I wish you could see it.
Yeah, that's man, Ryan, you just like clued in on that perfectly. Like it was that in person. So, like, and just taking a step back, for example, like when we met and we hung out, like it was like, it's kinetic. Like, it was just like, oh, like we're boys. Like that's like there's no like onboarding needed. Like it was just like right out of the cannon, like just like boom. And like being able to connect with people in a way where, that bridge is just there. And there's an actual kind of like trust and connection that you have that just helps, especially from a work standpoint. Like when people know that you're rooting for them, when people know that like you're legitimately invested in like the goals and like the, kind of the objectives that they want to hit, but also just like as a person, like you're just like generally just like for other people. You can get that over Zoom. But like a little bit of the magic, a little bit of the spontaneity, a little bit of the, of just kind of like the general, like natural feel of it is missing. So for me, it was, that was tough just because, I think that there was like this, like, I don't know. I feel like if you think about like the pandemic, which is still ongoing, in seasons, like that first season, that's when like the Netflix like watch parties where, or like you'd have like Friday happy hour with your friends and there'd be like 15 people on a call. And then, June, July hits, and then it goes from like 15 to like, all right, you got like 4 or 5. And then like by September, you're texting your friends like, hey guys, we still doing this? Like, are we, and it's just like, that kind of like, people can only take so much. And so for me, like it was tough just because like I always felt like the best of like what I can do and like what I bring, like as a human, like was never built for like at distance. It was never built to be like on screen. But you can get a semblance of it. And I feel like I could give a semblance of it in a way, but it was less about like my resilience to be able to like continue to do it and more about like other people's like just general like fatigue, because that's tough because it's natural. So for me, that was like the super, like less superpower, just who I am that, that just became really, really tough. And like, even now, like it's getting better just because like we're starting to go back in the office a couple of days a week. And we're starting to like just onboard onto like returning to office and just like life as we previously used to know it. But yeah, there's like, there's residue that's there from the past couple of years, but that was tough. And that's where, I started to just like be thankful for like my health and like, I don't know, the other things that were there because like, oh my gosh, I would have went crazy, man. Like,
well, my job to me is not just a job. Like I'm very lucky that I'm trying to design a life where I can interview cool people like you and like share your story and like try to understand how this happened, right? Like that, there's joy there for me. And I am definitely we're back to pro people. Like I root for you, I want you to be successful. But, when you say something like, you said earlier, like it's just a job and I'm not totally defined by my job. Right. Well, I imagine then, especially when you're stuck in a box, then it's really hard to build true relationships, which kind of, again, you're back in this, is it's, transactional might be too much, but does it feel transactional? And then, here's the other thing, and I'm doing the thing I shouldn't do, which is I'm asking multiple questions at one time. Yeah. So I'm really curious at Meta, and I'll use the soccer metaphor because I know, like, one of the best parts about our relationship is that we had an awesome night and we're tight, and then like it wasn't until 6 months later And I'm like, oh shit, you like soccer like I like soccer,
That's a fan. Yeah.
right? Like I didn't see that. It's like cool. So let's say at Meta, and you might have to explain it because we don't have soccer fans listening.
Yeah.
What position on the field are you
Yeah.
at Meta? Like if you're gonna pinpoint, like from when it comes to your job, what's the metaphor?
This is this is like my kink. This is great. So I'm going to say, gosh, so think of that. Think of that like left back or right back that, obviously is like, like at like a Buddhist level, like their goal and like their entire kind of like being is all about defense and like finding ways where you can like just ensure,
I'm giving him the timeout mark. Okay, so when he says left, he's talking about the defender in the back, and in the boot. So you're talking German league. So you're playing like serious discipline in a top league, and you're you see yourself as a left defender.
Yeah. So left back, but like the beauty of the left back though is that like and especially as the game has progressed, and I'm thinking of like the Pep Guardiola style of like left backs, or like even some of like the defensive midfielders who like find a way to like Fernandino is just like unbelievable, like watching him do his thing, because he will go from fully just like mauling you down and just completely like tackling you just out of nowhere, taking the ball, and then at that point basically becomes like a forward attacking like player, and like he's playing striker, like out of nowhere you're like, oh wow, he's playing striker, and like I have to legitimately like respect like his offensive abilities like just as much as his defensive abilities. So for me, the analogy being like, and it's not just like a cheap like, oh, like it's got to be both, but like that's like the mentality that you have to have. Like you have to be like as not opportunistic, because that sounds too transactional. But like when you see a chance to get a turnover and like be able to contribute to the other side of the ball, like that's when I know that I'm like adding as much value as I am just on the defensive side of things. Like I love that. Like I love being able to like do my part, like specifically that helps my team, but then being able to flip that into something that's then helping another team that's like on the other side of things. That's awesome. And that for me is like when I watch soccer, like those are the intricacies that like I love. Like I love seeing a team that can go and flip from being, just exactly what you think they are on paper to then like complete plot twist.
So there's a lot in there, right? So what I'm hearing is, first of all, Meta, obviously it's an elite. This is an elite company. You're touching half the world, which is pretty cool. Second, I hear perception is reality until it isn't, until there's a new reality. And so in your role, I imagine many are like, oh, how this is reactionary. We have to defend the fire drill.
Yeah.
Hey, let's avoid this. Let's avoid this fire drill. Let's avoid that fire drill. Hey, let's just be aware if we do this, there's a possibility of this, that, and the other. And then to your point, let's just say one day a week you get to go up and be like, hey, have you guys thought about hitting the gas and being proactive here? Consider this, consider that. And I imagine if the expectation is be careful how to say this, where to say that, be mindful of this, and then every once in a while you flip the script and you get to join the offense. It's almost like a multiplier on value. Is that what life is like at Meta for you?
Yeah. And I would say too, that like there are, the fire drills, or whatever you want to call them, it's like, that's an ongoing thing. And like, it's not to say that I enjoy putting them out. It's less about I think we're all okay as a team, like knowing and seeing like the things that are popping up and like finding ways to fix them so that things are better for everybody. So, if my buddy on offense like gets a turnover, like I'm perfectly fine with like helping them out and knowing that like those are the risks. And I talked about the stakes being higher here. Like those are the risks that are just associated with it. And like, you just have to like go into it thinking that hopefully there's a way that we can rewrite some of these things that that pop up so that we can turn something that maybe was a negative into a positive. So again, the soccer analogy being like you get a turnover because, you're attacking, forwards or like really like bombing it and going for it, which, sometimes they're going to slip up and that's okay. But then hopefully you can find a way to have their back and then flip, something into a positive. But it's, I just think it's great just because it gives us, like the mental like elasticity to like just always be on and just always be thinking of like what problems can we solve, like what ways can we kind of think through like different solutions. And like it's a really it's a good place to be if you want to be able to have that type of impact at that kind of scale.
So I feel like on this interview, I would be doing the audience a disservice if I just stay fluent in metaphor. So like, I'd love to ask you, like, where was like one place at Meta where you felt like, oh man, we launched and people missed this. They didn't get like, it didn't, I thought this would land more or like, oh, wait a minute. No, everybody totally got it. And that was epic. But, I guess I'm looking for like a little on the ground nugget on something you were hoping would be, it just felt like it was bigger and it just didn't land with us. We didn't get it. We missed it.
I don't know. And I would say too that, I acknowledge that, maybe, not everybody's going to feel, empathy or is the right word, but, feel sorry about, us, as a pretty big company, maybe not necessarily, landing something or having the reach. But I would say, we have a huge, just a team that focuses on medium and small and medium sized businesses. And, I think during the pandemic and coming out of that, obviously still going on, but, maybe on the other side of things, the ways that we've been able to give like some really incredible platforms and build some incredible like economic opportunities for some of these SMBs to me has been less about, people maybe not seeing it, but more like the work that I'm like truly, truly proud of. And that I'm proud of that my colleagues have been able to do that because I think a lot of folks over the past few years have, I think they've had, if you're a small and medium sized business, like you've had to like shift and just completely like flip the script on like how, you're staying afloat and like keeping the lights on. And then for, from my perspective on the other side as like a shopper, it's like, okay, like I think people have a different relationship with their SMBs now in a way that they maybe didn't before. Like I know that, buying local has always been a maxim, but I think more than ever over the past few years, it's something that's been embraced by everyone. And I don't know, that kind of like all in collective kind of spirit that people have taken, like we really, really sought to champion that because those folks depend on our platforms to stay connected, but also like to earn a living and to like put food on the table. So that's been the thing, less about like people maybe missing it and more about the thing that I'm truly proud of. And now it's like, kind of manifesting into other areas where like creators, have gone from, hey, I can go viral and make funny videos or build an audience to like, oh, like this could be like a legitimate like living that I can make off of this, or this could be a really cool way that I could have an impact around like my life and the people that are in my life and like actually like make like a sustainable living doing it. And that's really cool. Cause like, that's the kind of stuff that like, I have no idea, not to say that I'm, speaking on behalf of Mark Zuckerberg or anything else, but like, that's the kind of thing where, if you think about him, making Facebook a long time ago, and like, this is now like what it's like shifting into, and these are some of the possibilities that come out of it. I just think that's really cool.
What do you think is Mark's favorite baby of all the brands? If you had to pick one?
No idea. Absolutely no idea.
I'm kidding. I actually should have probably prepared with a Mark Zuckerberg quote. I have a Reed Hastings quote that I wanted to run by you, and I got to hear him speak. Obviously, Reed Hastings, who was running Netflix. I got to hear him speak, and I was in the room when he said this. It was pretty cool. He said that Netflix is not a family; it's a sports team. And I like appreciated the directness, And I was like, touche. Yeah, because I think a lot of companies are like, no, we're family.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious, in your mind, is Meta, okay, let's say it's a cocktail. What percent of it is, are you more sports team or more family?
Oh man. I that. Oh, geez. I would say so. I guess what was the context in terms of him? Like, how would you delineate between a family and a sports team? Is it the kind of like the because yeah, as a huge sports fan. Like when I think of that analogy, it's you know a sports team, and especially I'm thinking of the Steelers. Like they are amazingly good at like keeping and maintaining like a familial and like fair and balanced environment. But at the end of the day, whatever is best for the team like will win. Like so, like re-signing a new player. Yeah, maybe they're a fan favorite, but they're on the north side of 30, and maybe at this point it wouldn't be a smart move. So like maybe it would be like a really really tough thing externally from like the optics of it, but like long term, it's probably a better move. But like that's tough as a fan. But yeah, so I don't know or did I answer your question or explain
No,
it?
I think that he meant it in the context is like, look, not everyone's going to play, right? Like, who's going to, like, our best performers need to play.
Yeah.
Like, we need wins. He also went on in that same conversation and said, our competition is sleep, which I thought was fascinating. But I was curious just to hear, like what, there's so many people at Meta.
Yeah.
Maybe that it is hard to control, and that's not the right word, but like the culture is bigger than any one person, I imagine, at this point. It's filled with smart people. But is it a culture? Is there a sense of urgency on like we need to make sure we're continually letting like churning out wins, right? Even like you said, look, I've got my little side hustle sock problems, right? We're trying to sock problems in the world with socks. Like without your platforms, no one knows we exist. So I'm exactly who you're talking about, right? Like seriously, like I could not compete. I'd have no business in business without it.
Yeah.
So there's joy there, right? But I was just curious if it felt more like a family or a sports team.
Yeah, I would, it's interesting because I would say oh gosh, I lost my train of thought.
It happens. It bites the best of us.
No, I had it, but long story short, I would, well, first of all, the Reed Hastings thing was funny just because I was like, well, do you, if your opponent is sleep, like, are we like, I mean, I would hope that we wouldn't like win at some point, but no, for me, no, I think, from, that this is it. So from like a comm standpoint, I think the beauty of us having, the visibility and kind of like the known kind of ubiquity that Meta does, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, Messenger, WhatsApp, yada, yada, yada. I think, our challenge isn't necessarily like, the recognition. And now for me, it's like, how can we ensure that like, we're getting like, a like really good, like nuanced, like storytelling, and that like, we're getting like a fair shot and a fair deal. I think it's interesting too, because, with like reporters, I know that not every story is going to be like a beautiful, like, and I experienced this at Heineken, whether it's Toys R Us, like everywhere, whether it's, like sometimes, you're not going to like knock it out of the park every single time. But for me, it's more so like, was I able to really, truly like give this reporter like a good like perspective on like where we're coming from, and like, were they ever able to give us like a fair shake? And I think that that's how I've operated at Toys R Us. That's how I operated at Edelman. That's how I operated at Heineken. Because those relationships are really, really important.
Do you feel like I feel like you make it sound like you don't get a fair shake at Meta? Is it like, do you feel like it starts on, and is that sort of like, we've heard all the stories and therefore I'm looking for a new story, or is that what I'm picking up?
No, I wouldn't necessarily say that, yeah, like I don't think that like anyone's like out to get us or anything like that. I think for me, like at this point in my career, like I think you just start to like take stock on, what a win is. And for me, like there's like, and again, I'll use like Heineken as an example. Like there are like the cotton candy, like, oh, it's a great headline. It's a really cool story. But then like, if you want to like truly like either like build like a foundation for like how, a story like the metaverse, for example, and like how we're like contributing to that. They're like easy, like cotton candy, like wins that you can get, right now. But like, I'm thinking more so in terms of like some of like the core, like elements of these stories that like we want to build out that like will help people understand where we're coming from like 2 and 3 years from now, and less about like the immediate kind of like check the box wins now. So, with Heineken, this is a good example. Like we launched a low and no alcohol beer. And, that was as much like, yes, like it would be a win to like, get a headline that's like Heineken launches like new, no alcohol beer. But for us, it was more about like building out the category and like helping people understand that like no and low alcohol beer was like a legitimate like offering an option to like getting, I don't know, like an old fashioned or a Boulevardier or another beer or like rosé or something like that. So for me, it was more so like, yeah, like we could get these quick, easy wins. But like for me, like a story that would be like a, home run was more about like lifestyle changes and like how adults who could drink, like were more so thinking about like drinking smarter and like not as recklessly. Like that for me is kind of like what I'm talking about with the meta thing. It's less about, the fairness of it or like negative, headlines or this or that. And more so like, how are we helping to shape like, really the what I think that the story and truth is for, years to come.
Yeah. It's a slow cook shift,
Yeah,
and it's
totally.
Right. And it's one of those things where it's higher level. It's not lowest common denominator. And
100%.
I always used to love this question, because I came obviously out of the creative idea space myself. And I'm like, would you rather let the world know something they had no idea, like a brand? Would you rather like launch a brand that no one's ever heard of before?
Yeah.
Not a rebrand like Meta, by the way, like it never heard of before. Or would you rather take a brand that everybody knows and make them think just a little bit different about them? And that is not easy, right? Because you're
way harder.
So much harder, right? So
way harder.
Which would you rather take? Would you rather take a brand no one's heard of and be like, bam, on the map, or a shift?
Yeah. And that's really a question of like, do you want to, build something like from scratch, or do you want to have like, which, can have, that it's not even that. That's actually, it's a wrong analogy, but more so like, would you want to work at a startup that, has like a quick, like, and then you're selling, and you guys want to, pop an IPO and like get going? Or like, do you want to work at a place and like really like build like even more foundationally, like for years to come? And for me, it'll always be that second one. The thing that I loved, at Meta, and I experienced this at Heineken and even like Toys R Us to an extent too, because Toys R Us has some like, like the brand, like love that people have for Toys R Us and like the memories, like you can't like buy that. Like companies would pay to have that type of brand affinity. And there's something to that goes a long way, but it is so hard, especially with some of these bigger companies, to like just even shift a little bit, because like they are so ingrained and their foundation is so deep. So when you can even like move a mountain, even like an inch or two, that reverberates and it goes a long way. So, those are long-term processes, but I don't know. I kind of like the nerd in me kind of likes the challenge, All
right. So this is the last question coming down the stretch here. So let's say you made a comment earlier that how do you make a bigger impact and a dent? And let's just for giggles say it's now, we've seen New York Bjorn, we know Pittsburgh Bjorn, we know New York Bjorn, we're getting to know San Francisco Bjorn. But 10 years from now, Bjorn, like what does success look like? Like, what are you doing? Are you starting a nonprofit? Are you back on the East Coast? If you had to guess, and again, you can't stay at Meta. So that's what are you doing and where are you?
Yeah, I think it's, it goes beyond the job thing. And just like, for me, it's so much of it is like, it's being good to the people that care about you, and like being good to the people that you care about. So so much of that is like building bridges and like finding ways to just like show up like when you can, like even if it's not necessarily like where you want to be, but finding a way to like really build into like who you could become. So I don't know. I've always kind of been someone where, I think like a comeback can start like anywhere, like at any time, So, and I don't know, being out West kind of like brings out like a little bit of that in me. So yeah, for me, it's more so just thinking through like family wise, like, how I can be, just a better person in that sense. And, the job stuff I think will come. So yeah.
Is the family in Pittsburgh, or where's your?
Yeah, it's all over. It's, obviously family in California. My dad is he's in Tampa, so outside of Clearwater. Brother is in Pittsburgh. And then other brother is in Detroit, and sister is in Texas. So wow. All over the country, but I don't know, that makes it like, so like being intentional is like, kind of getting now like, full circle, like just being intentional and like, maybe finding ways to just be really, really, focused on like building into that is like, yeah, it's important. And now that, especially like, on the other side of the pandemic, being able to, to actually like double click into that, heck yeah.
All right, I lied. One more question, two-parter. Does the U.S. get out of their group at the World Cup, and who wins it all?
Oh man, this is the question I feared the most.
It is the Courageous podcast.
So we got to beat Iran. Like absolutely have to. England, I actually would love to beat England, obviously, just based on the fact that it's going to be on Black Friday, and like what better way to celebrate the gross, just like capitalistic side of the United States, and by beating the country that started it and we perfected it. But I think if we honestly, man, like I think we should, like on paper we should, like it would be ridiculous. But I think my big thing is like everybody's injured. Everybody's injured. We don't have a goalie. Like I don't know how this happened overnight, where we went from the stars were aligning to what happened to Zach Steffen, and like why are like all of our midfielders like just completely like in the infirmary. So the goalie I'm not as worried about. Zach like has the yips, and hopefully he gets some like solid playing time. But like we got to make it out of the group stage. Like we got to stop like doing this whole like, oh, like we're the men's national team, they're overcoming so many obstacles. We have like 350 million people in this country. Totally. We have all the resources in the world. Like it should not be that big of a shock for us to get to the knockout round. Like it really shouldn't.
My big fear is Ukraine. Like, please, yeah. Like it's a tricky, like if Ukraine sneaks in, they're playing for a whole nother, that it's bigger than soccer. And so it's tricky to say, and I'm so sorry for those of you who are listening are like, okay, turn it off now. I understand if you want to jump off now. Right. Yeah. But like, that's
they
my
got players too. Like it's not just like the Cinderella thing. Like they got Zinchenko, they've got, they've got a couple of defensive guys that are like proper players. Like they're not, that would not be like a gimme game. Like I would be like pumped to come out of that game actually with a tie. For me, like if we have to beat Iran, like if we do not beat Iran, then, that we've got bigger problems.
It feels like a 1-1 tie. All right, this has been the Courageous Podcast with Bjorn Trowery. Bjorn, thanks for joining, man. Love you, man.
Thank you too. Love you too.